The M1 Pro MacBook Pro has been a true workhorse for the past 3 years. It delivers everything that I need in a portable workstation. It cuts video like butter. The screen is awesome. It has phenomenal build quality. And above all of that, the power efficiency of Apple Silicon is something that I never really took for granted. But that's no surprise. We've come to expect this level of performance from Apple. Over the years, they've rolled out M2 and M3 Pro and Max processors, but none of them truly offered a compelling reason for me to upgrade, since the performance uplift wasn't that significant. So here we are, 3 years later, with Apple's latest M4 Pro MacBook Pro. If you're currently using an M1 Pro laptop and considering an upgrade, the big question is, should you? Well, for starters, this is how the M4 Pro stacks up against its previous generations. It's still built on the 3nm process, though Apple hasn't disclosed the transistor count this time, which is a really odd omission. The CPU and GPU gets a few extra cores compared to the M3 Pro, but for those upgrading from the M1 Pro, the addition of 4 physical cores could significantly impact real-time rendering performance. There's also support for more memory, though the memory bandwidth has been slightly reduced. One key detail to note here is that the 16-inch MacBook Pro comes standard with the top spec configuration, featuring a 14-core CPU and a 20-core GPU, while the 14-inch MacBook Pro offers configurable lower core count options, saving you around $500. Now, this essentially allows you to allocate more budget towards storage and memory upgrades, though the infamous Apple tax is hard to ignore. Paying $200 to double the storage or $400 to double the memory feels excessively and frankly a greedy move from Apple. It's frustrating, and I can't believe we're talking about this in 2024. Anyways, let's talk about performance, because the M4 Pro MacBook Pro brings some notable changes within its new power modes. So we have lower power, automatic, and high power mode. Lower power mode reduces performance and power consumption to about 10 watts. It sort of mimics the efficiency of a MacBook Air while also lowering fan noise under heavy core workloads, and it also extends battery life. This is just perfect for light tasks. High power mode, on the other hand, ramps everything up, pushing power consumption to nearly 50 watts. That's double or almost double of what the M1 Pro MacBook Pro offered. Now, this mode is ideal for graphically intensive tasks, but it comes at a trade-off, and that is fan noise. This actually caught me off guard, especially since my daily driver M1 Pro MacBook Pro handled everything intensified through at it at uber quiet noise levels. So that's something to keep in mind if you're upgrading, because this fan noise is certainly noticeable and annoying as well. Surface temperatures have also gone higher with the M4 Pro chip, running about 7 degrees Celsius warmer than the M1 Pro, despite Apple using the same chassis. Most of the heat is expelled through the rear vents, and the keyboard area remains surprisingly cool, which is pretty impressive. I did notice the cooling system hasn't seen a significant redesign for the new chip, apart from the slightly larger heatsink. And of course, upgradability remains off the table, no surprises here, but I do have to admit that the internal design of this laptop is absolutely stunning. It is one of the most beautifully engineered layouts that I've ever seen on a laptop. It's a work of art, but the real question is, what kind of performance improvements can you expect upgrading from something like the M1 Pro to the M4 Pro? The short answer is a lot, because single core performance is up by 38%, which is crazy. Though for casual tasks, the difference isn't actually that noticeable from day-to-day operations like opening up Finder or certain applications here and there. It's pretty much instantaneous on both laptops. The real magic actually happens when you push all those cores to their limits. The M4 Pro is one of the fastest laptop CPUs that I've ever tested, shaving rendering times in half in applications like Blender, Houdini, and even Handbrake. Interestingly, the difference between automatic and high power modes isn't that significant in most cases, so you're better off just using the laptop as it is configured out of the box. To me, the most exciting improvement was export times in Adobe Lightroom Classic, where it essentially handled all of my high-resolution photos without any issues. It is insanely fast for a laptop, guys. Shifting to video editing, DaVinci Resolve shows noticeable gains over the M1 Pro, but it still doesn't match the RTX 4080 powered G16, which benefits its GPU-heavy architecture. Similarly, Adobe Premiere Pro sees a 20% improvement over the M1 Pro, which is really impressive, But again, it does fall short when you compare to laptops like the G16 with a 4080 paired with an Ultra 9 185H processor. Export times convey half the story, but the other half comes down to the editing experience. And when I'm working within complex projects like this Lamborghini-inspired gaming PC build video, the M1 Pro struggled quite a bit. It's a 700GB project. I've got different codecs. I've got a lot of color grading, advanced color grading, masking, different layers of complexity on the timeline. And this one, as you can see, just does struggle. The M4 Pro still struggles as well, but it doesn't drop frames as bad as the M1 Pro. So that is something that I definitely noticed as I was switching back and forth between these machines. The M4 Pro, it's not super smooth, but the M1 Pro is definitely a lot worse, which I guess is a nice upgrade. So I had to go back and tone down the timeline resolution to half in order to, work comfortably within this project. On the Mac Studio, it's a no-brainer. That thing is just a beast. The exterior design of the MacBook Pro remains largely unchanged, with the most noticeable update obviously being this new space black color introduced with the M3 lineup last year. And while it is sleek, it still does show a lot of fingerprints more prominently than my silver M1 Pro MacBook Pro. As expected, build quality is top-notch, the aluminum chassis feels robust, and nothing on the market quite matches the MacBooks in terms of keyboard rigidity or even the buttery smooth hinge mechanism. I also love the satisfying magnetic snap when you close the laptop. It's the small, thoughtful details that enhance the overall user experience. The trackpad is in a league of its own, guys. Apple, they just figured out some magic sauce to balance the responsiveness, the smoothness, and the intuitive gestures within macOS. The haptic primary and secondary clicks, they feel outstanding. Honestly, I don't feel the need to use an external mouse when traveling. In fact, I can comfortably edit videos without a mouse. I can just use this trackpad. And it's something that I still struggle to do with Windows laptops. The keyboard, unfortunately, is not the best that I've used. There are Windows laptops that feel way superior than this in terms of typing. It feels identical to my M1 Pro MacBook Pro, and it gets the job done. Touch ID works pretty well, but the keys themselves are prone to a lot of fingerprints, and it does tend to wear over time. But if you are seeking for a better typing experience than what's built onto these MacBook Pros, I might have something for you. To achieve perfection, sometimes you have to change the game. That means finding something that embodies modern design with a refined, minimalistic aesthetic that can easily be adapted to reflect your environment. Sculpted with precision-crafted weights for enhanced stability and style, whether you seek the perfect typing rhythm, a unique tactile feel, or unobstructed functionality, Drop's CST M80 is a TKL marvel that's sleek and bold, designed to dominate your workspace. Check it out down below. So we've covered the performance side of the M4 Pro chip, and the key takeaway is pretty clear. It's significantly faster than the M1 Pro, but it does come with trade-offs. For example, the increased fan noise and the higher heat output. But how does that impact battery life? Despite consuming more power, the M4 Pro leverages Apple's efficiency advancements to deliver impressive battery performance. To my surprise, it outlasted the M1 Pro in our standard light load web page refresh test, clocking in at 18.5 hours. Which is phenomenal for a laptop of this caliber. What's even more impressive is we achieved nearly 24 hours of battery life during our YouTube playback test, making this our battery life champ. I ran these tests multiple times and consistently got the same results. Keep in mind that all the laptops that you see here in the charts were set to 150 nits in order to standardize the whole testing procedure, so increasing the brightness will definitely shorten the runtime. But the tables do turn when you shift over to heavier workloads where the CPU is fully taxed. In this case, the M4 Pro lasted nearly an hour less than the M1 Pro, and that's most likely due to the higher power levels. But that said, Apple's standout strength remains its ability to maintain peak performance even when unplugged. Another notable inclusion to the M4 Pro MacBook Pro is the option to configure these displays with a special Nano-texture option. So this essentially is a specialized matte finish that's etched directly into the glass to reduce glare without sacrificing image quality. This not only preserves sharpness, contrast, and vibrant colors, but Apple's switch to quantum dot technology covers a wider P3 gamut, and it's also much brighter. This thing pulls over 600 nits of peak SDR levels, which is one of the brightest we have come across on a 16-inch laptop. I love editing on this thing. It actually makes me feel a little bit more immersive with the content. It's super awesome to travel with. I just appreciate the fact that I don't have to deal with reflections. But my experience can be different from yours. I've actually been reading on Reddit where people have mixed opinions about Nano-texture, where essentially the colors might look washed out and the black levels are way better on the glossy option. But at the end of the day, if you're contemplating between Nano versus glossy, just walk to your local Apple store and view them side by side. Play videos, browse the web, do the regular things that you do when you're using a laptop, and then make the call. I just think that this feature is so cool to have on a laptop, and I'm hoping that every other laptop manufacturers adapt this technology. Yes, it is an extra $150, but in my opinion, it's worth every penny. The webcam on the M4 Pro MacBook Pro has got a generous upgrade, now featuring a 12 megapixel sensor with Apple's center stage technology. Now this keeps you perfectly centered during video calls, even as you move around. It also includes features like studio lighting, background blur, and live reactions triggered by gestures, though the latter can feel a bit gimmicky. On top of that, there's desk view support, which uses the ultra-wide sensor to create a top-down view of your desk. Now, it struggles with 3D objects due to distortion, but I do see this as a handy tool for sharing notes or sketches, which I think would make it particularly useful for teachers conducting online classes. The speakers are world-class, hands down the best that you'll find on a laptop. The sound is rich, immersive, and it packs a solid bass punch. The port setup hasn't seen any significant changes, but the M4 Pro and Max strips now include Thunderbolt 5 support. M4 Pro, like the M1 Pro, supports up to 2 displays, but now it supports higher resolutions at higher refresh rates like 4K 240Hz. Now, if you need more display support, M4 Max offers support for up to 4 screens, but that does come at a significant cost. Now let's shift focus to the overall user experience of using a Mac. Starting with the transfer process. Apple makes it ridiculously simple, guys, for existing Mac users. All you have to do is just connect both devices to the same Wi-Fi network, or better yet, if you use a USB-C to USB-C cable to speed things up, that's even better. You open Migration Assistant, and within just a few clicks, it replicates your entire desktop setup on the new Mac, including all your apps, files, system preferences, wallpapers, and even passwords. It even remembered all of my Chrome tabs from the M1 Pro Mac. Crazy stuff. But what really stands out is the tight integration across Apple devices. For instance, with macOS Sequoia, iPhone mirroring allows you to wirelessly interact with your iPhone, including accessing apps and notifications right from your Mac. You can seamlessly copy items between devices or even edit videos on CapCut using your Mac. It just makes the whole experience incredibly useful for creators who share content across all sorts of platforms in both horizontal and vertical formats. It's intuitive and efficient. It just works. So that's the M4 Pro MacBook Pro in a nutshell. It's an incredibly fast laptop with exceptional battery life, easily outperforming the M1 Pro by a wide margin. The only downside for me is the fan noise. It kicks in more frequently, especially when I'm editing videos or rendering. I'm just so used to the quiet operation of the M1 Pro. The noise on the M4 Pro just feels a bit jarring. The display is a nice improvement, though I would have liked to see a 240Hz ProMotion upgrade. And pricing hasn't changed all that much compared to the M1 Pro. It still starts at $2,500, and the spec that I have over here costs about $3,500, which, I'll be honest, is a lot of money. Are there cheaper alternatives on the Windows side? Absolutely. But as someone who relies on a dependable workstation without dealing with Windows updates, random BSODs, or Bluetooth issues, or having issues connecting to an external display, or just the random Windows 11 gremlins that Mike experienced with his Aura Edition Lenovo Pro 7i or 9i, nothing really compares to what the MacBook Pro offers. My M1 Pro never let me down over the past 3 years, so I'm confident that the M4 Pro will continue that legacy. But if you're coming from M2 or M3 Pro, I don't see a strong reason to upgrade because the jump in performance, in my opinion, won't be that significant. So I hope that clears everything up. I'm Ibor with Hardware Canucks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. And don't forget to spend responsibly.